And hi, good evening. This is Brad Chapman at Yes You Can Inspire to Achieve, and we're joined by Jesse K. Hey Jesse,
What's
say
up?
hi to
How
everybody.
are you guys
Hey,
doing?
so Jesse, let me just set the scene very briefly. Why Facebook is doing its thing and starting to build an audience. So this is our first live Facebook interview with somebody from the United States, and actually we're very fortunate this evening to be joined by Jesse K. I'm just going to give you a brief background about Jesse. Hey, good evening, Alexander Breed. No sound, no sound. Hold on one second. Got no sound there. One moment. Okay, let me just do a sound check. Okay, let me just do a sound check. One second, Jesse. We just got. Is the sound okay? Just bear me 1 second, as we've got no sound at the moment. Okay, just bear me 1 second. Okay, do we have sound, guys? Do we have sound if you're listening? Let me just adjust my.
Oh wait,
Can
give me
you
one
hear
second.
me? 1 second. Yeah, see if I'm there, Jesse. Testing. Sound test.
Yeah, we
Sound
got
test.
sound. We have sound.
If you're listening.
We
You
have
got
sound.
sound? Okay. Great stuff, great stuff. Okay, so please do get involved with the interview this evening. Hey, Mike Allison. Mike Allison says we can hear you. Thanks for that, Mike. That's fantastic. Jesse's just checked his phone so we can hear you. So thanks so much, Alexander. Just check your end. The sound is
Yeah, just
coming
restart it.
yeah, got it. Okay. Alexander, thanks for the feed, first of all. Mike, thanks for joining us. Thank you very much indeed. I'm just going to set the scene very, very quickly. Going to show a couple of comments as they come through. So please do post your comments and we'll get involved in a conversation with Jesse as we move forward. I'm going to look between the camera and my Facebook screen as well as talking to Jesse and messages we've got. So listen, Jesse K is the founder of 20 under 20's in the States. Actually, I got it wrong. Jesse's 16, not 17. He's not 17 until the 11th of August. Jesse lives in Upper Saddle River in New Jersey, about 45 minutes outside of New York City. Jesse's an amazing guy, and I listened to Jesse actually online the other night. He was interviewing a guy called Swish, a fantastic tech guy, and I was blown away. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. So listen, please do get involved. Alexander, you can hear us now. Fabulous, buddy. Well done. So the interview today really is about Jesse being a 16-year-old, about being at school and starting his business and some experience. We're going to run through some questions, but please do fire away if you have any comments you want to ask Jesse. It may be that you're listening for your kid's point of view, and it may be that you want to find out more about Jesse and what he's doing. So we're going to start off with our first question, which is, where did it all start, Jesse? So we're going to start with where did it all start for you?
Yeah, so I always like to talk about a little bit of my background. I was lucky enough to have my dad be an entrepreneur, so that had a huge impact on my life because as I grew up, I sort of saw what you put into it to become an entrepreneur and what you can get out of it. So that had a huge impact on my life as a kid. And then around 9 years old, I started buying shoes online. So I buy them from like a Foot Locker, Nike at retail price. So maybe it would be $200 retail. So I'd buy them for retail. And then I would go and resell them on eBay for like $400. So if they were a high in demand shoe. So that was a fun thing to do in elementary school and middle school because I really enjoyed shoes and I got to make some money off of it. So that was a really fun experience for me. I did that through middle school, made a couple $1,000 through middle school. And then right now I'm a junior in high school. So I'm in 11th grade and I'm in an entrepreneurship class and we had to come up with a product or service and write a business plan for it. So I realized a lot of kids in my class were super creative, but they had no idea what to do with that idea. So I did more research and found a lot of kids are very interested in entrepreneurship and are creative, but they don't know where that first step should be, how you get your start, where to go with their idea. So with that, I created the podcast 20 Under 20's, where I interview successful entrepreneurs in their 20s or below to hear their lessons, stories, experiences to help educate and inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs.
Fantastic. So on 20 under 20s, Jesse, and Alexander Breed's asking, hi, Jesse, it'd be good to know what you're doing as an entrepreneur. Of course, a good explanation there of 20 under 20s. And just explain a little bit more about 20 under 20s, because on the site there. You do Facebook Lives, and you've also got you know, an iTunes podcast. Just explain a bit more in depth about 20 under 20, so we can really understand the sort of people you're interviewing, the types of characters, and what they do. Because there's a lot of technically gifted people that you're interviewing. If there's technically savvy people, listen, I know Mike Allison, he runs a telecommunications company, no doubt. He will have lots of youngsters that he's working with. So tell a bit more about 20 under 20s and the types of people that you're interviewing.
Yeah, for sure. So the start of 20 under 20s, I basically just had that idea and I didn't know where to go with it. So I got connected with Connor Blakely through a mutual friend, and he's actually one of my closest friends, a mentor to mine. He's 17. He was my first interview, actually. So I've interviewed a lot of people. Some of the people I've interviewed include Connor Blakely. He runs a youth marketing agency. Some of his clients are Sprint, all these other big brands. He helps brands connect with Generation Z. I've interviewed people who were on Shark Tank and got deals with Mark Cuban. For example, Ben Stern got a deal with Mark Cuban for his company Nobo. All these amazing people. The editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine. It hasn't went live yet, but I recorded that. Corey Levy, the founder of the After School App. So basically, it's a bunch of tech people along with just entrepreneurs. So Connor Blakely, for example, or Ben Stern, they're not tech. They're just entrepreneurs, and they're in their 20s or below. So basically, I'm trying to target people who are 29 or below, mostly between 15 to 23 is usually who I'm having on the show, that can talk about what it was like to balance school and entrepreneurship in their job, or what they're doing for their business and how they built it up. So I've had people who dropped out of high school, people that have grad degrees, people that are multimillionaires while in high school. It's crazy the extent of all the different ranges of people I've had, but also just been a great way to network. With the podcast, I have the Facebook Lives, and I've done Facebook Lives. I don't know if anyone in the UK knows of Caleb Maddox, but he's 15. He's written 5 books. He's super successful. But then also I post the interviews on iTunes, and some of the people I've been able to connect with from doing this, I had to – at first, this is a story I love to tell. When I tried to create the podcast first, besides Connor, I had no guests. I didn't know who I would have on the show. I was like, who's going to want to come on my show? I have 0 people. So I sent 350 cold emails every day, once a day, every day for 2 months straight. I sent 350 cold emails to anybody I ever wanted to connect with. So I literally pulled up the Forbes 30 under 30 list, found any categories that interested me, and sent them all emails. I emailed Mark Cuban. I emailed everybody you could ever think of. And I thought I would get no response because, like, why would they respond to me?
Well, what did you say to them, Jesse? What did you say to them in the email? What was the shout?
Yeah, it was basically just, hey, super inspired by you. Here's what I'm doing, my podcast. It's to help inspire and educate the next generation of entrepreneurs. I find you an inspiration and think you could inspire my audience. If you have some time, I'd love to have you on. And then I was surprised because I started to get responses from people like Mark Cuban, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, all of these incredible people. And a lot of them were no's, but at least it showed me that I was getting responses. And now I've gotten to the point where through the network I've built in 6 months, just from cold email and giving value first and then getting value, which is a key thing. A lot of people go in and ask. I think the key thing is you want to go in and give. And through that, you gain stuff out of it, even if it's not direct. I mean, giving, then you build a good relationship. So I've been able to connect with Gary Vaynerchuk, AJ Vaynerchuk. I've gotten responses from Mark Cuban, Grant Cardone, all these incredible people. But that's what I'm trying to say. Anybody can do it. You just have to get going somewhere and get started.
Yeah, totally. So listen, so there must have been something inside you to start this. So, I mean, and thanks for that feedback. I mean, Mike Allison's listening. Mike Allison just said, I'm too old at 59. I missed that, but I know
You're
Mike
never too old,
has got a really technical savvy business. What would you say to someone saying, I'm too old, I missed the boat?
You didn't miss the boat yet. Yeah, unless you're dead, you haven't missed the boat. It's the same thing as people saying you're too young. You don't know how many times people have been like, you're just 16. What advice do you have? But as long as you still have value you can provide and you have an audience that will listen to you, you can do it at whatever age.
That's a really fantastic answer. Your inspiration and your energy, Jesse, and your courage is amazing. And I wanted to ask you, listen, if you're just tuning in and you're just watching, share the link, invite your friends, bring your friends in, bring your kids in.
Yeah, guys, share. Let's get people in here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, UK, if you're watching, you know, we've got a fairly decent amount of
Yeah,
viewers
guys,
watching
whoever
right now.
the next 5 people that share, I'll give you the cold email template I sent to get meetings with Gary Vaynerchuk, AJ Vaynerchuk, and Mark Cuban.
There you go. The next 5 shares, you're going to get an email. Jesse K sent
template I use.
The exact template you use. So listen, you have no excuse, youngsters, young or old. This is a guy who's 16, not 17 years of age. He's grabbed his balls, literally, and he's going out there and he's doing it. We can all learn something from it. So share the video. Let's get more involved and let's get deeper into the discussion. So Jesse, I know, and I want to come back to some of the challenges that you had in your earlier life, which I know you're happy to talk about, but who has been the major influencer on your life? Who's been the major influencer that you look at every day that makes you want to get up? Mine's Les Brown, right? I love Les Brown. I'd love to be on stage with Les Brown one day. It's my dream. It's possible, right? Who is your major influencer, you know, in your life?
Yeah. So I would say there's a couple key people. First thing I would say is my family. My parents have been incredibly supportive ever since I was little. They supported me in whatever I needed. My dad, like I said, is an entrepreneur, so he's always been very helpful and supportive of all of my entrepreneurial things, whether it was starting with the shoe reselling thing all the way up through everything. He's been incredibly helpful. And same with my mom. They've just been very caring when I struggled with anxiety, ADD, panic. I mean, they were right there for me. So they had a big impact on me personally as well as in business. I would say strictly business, the last 6 months, Connor Blakely has definitely had the biggest impact on my life. Like I said, he was my first interview. He sort of just took a leap of faith on me. I had nothing at that point, and he said he'd help me out. He's connected me to dozens of incredibly influential people that I would have never been able to meet. And just he's let me shadow him. He's let me do all of these things. He's literally given me the path he took, and he's just been an incredible friend and an incredible mentor to me this entire journey.
Well, that's absolutely awesome. I think it's so important for everyone to have a mentor. And would you say that a mentor and a business coach are very, very similar in the way that they help us and inspire us to move forward?
Yeah, I would. I'd say there's some similarities, some differences. I would say a mentor versus a business coach, I would say they're very similar in that they both want to help you grow, because why else would they be doing it? Whether it's a mentor or business coach. I would say on the flip side, a business coach, typically, I mean, it depends on who it is, but it seems typically that they're focused on business and it's helping your business grow and your brand grow. And as a mentor, I would say it's more of personal / business. It's not just strictly business. It's growing up, maturity, personal life, all of that. So I would say those are the key differences.
That's absolutely fantastic. And, you know, and your age is beyond your years. I mean, to a fascinating point. And I can tell you now, I mean, I've interviewed so many high-profile entrepreneurs. I've been up and down, left and right in my life. And you are going to be an amazing force in this world.
I
just want to say thanks for joining us, Jeffrey. And I think I said that to you before when I watched you online. Just going to go through a couple of comments there. So Alexander Breeder said, shared, please send the email.
I will, guys. If you shared it, just send me a Facebook message.
Yeah, so there you go. You heard it straight from Jesse. Jane Lennon shared. Also, Mike Allison shared as well. Where we've got Maha Rama, she's fantastic. She's an amazing. Jeremiah Northcutt says, keep slaying. Jeremy Miller, Jesse is a boss. And now just some new comments just come in. Robert J. Moore has just joined. Marina Nani, my father, girlfriend, my business coach, and God of understanding. And Marina Nani, Jesse, is the lady that I'd like to introduce you to. And actually, Robert's in Canada. He's in Ontario. Rob, you're in Ontario, aren't you? Rob is a fantastic guy. Listen, he's got a book which is called just while we're online, he's got a book which is called From Rock Bottom to Success. It's on my shelf here. That's Rob's book. Awesome author. And I think, Jesse, you know, you can get involved with Robert and, as I said, with Marina Nani. Let's move on to another question. And obviously, if you've got questions in the audience, keep the questions coming.
Yeah, keep
ask Jesse.
I can.
You know, let's ask Jesse as many questions as you can, but I'll kick off. Just keep the questions coming, and we'll put them up live on screen for Jesse. Keep the comments coming and keep sharing the video. So we just asked who's been the major influence on your life, Jesse? I want to talk 16 years, but nearly a few months on you, right? You're not 17 till August 11th.
Yep,
Jesse, can I even drive a car?
Drive for another 2 months.
Right, so we were just talking about this before the interview. Jesse cannot drive a car in the States.
Only with a parent in the car. I can't drive on my own for another 2 months.
Well, tell me the discussion we were having on Messenger while you was coming back from school. What was you saying to me before we went live? You were on what?
I was on the school bus coming home.
He's on the school bus coming home, right? This guy is rushing home from school saying, Brad, I'm nearly there. I'll be there in 5 minutes. He's been to school today. He's 16 years of age. He's running his business. He's got another radio show going out this evening. So let's just, Rob's in Ontario. So let's move on to the next question, which is this. You know, you are still at school. An absolute inspiration to school kids all over the world, if I might say. So how do you make the time to go to school and focus on your studies? Now, I know your top lesson, you like Spanish, right?
Yeah, Jesse's a bug. Thank you.
It's Spanish, right? So how do you find the time? Now, Jesse was struggling with Spanish the other night, and we had a laugh online. How do you make the time, Jesse?
Yeah, so it's tough for sure. Anyone who says it's easy, I don't think is telling the truth. It's 100% not easy unless you're not giving your all in both things. But I would say it's a couple main factors. Number one is organization and time management, which I used to be terrible at, by the way. I was like, oh, yeah, I'll do this week. It was completely, I'd do this week. I'd do it whenever. But now from this, literally, I have a on my Google Calendar, literally every 15 minutes of my life is planned out, which is sort of weird, but it works. It works in the fact that I even have free time set out on my calendar. I have everything on my calendar. This is when I'm doing this, and that's been key. Along with putting down when I have assignments due, when I have everything due, just so I can keep track. I would say the number two thing is prioritizing. I don't think procrastination. I used to always procrastinate with schoolwork, and I came to the realization that procrastination isn't really procrastination. It's the lack of wanting to do something. So I never procrastinate with the podcast because I want to get it done because I enjoy it. For example, Spanish, like we discussed, it sort of takes a back seat. So I think it's really doing what you want to, making sure you prioritize. I can't even speak. And making sure you put everything down on a calendar, and time management would be my key tips. But I mean, right now I'm in finals start on Thursday of this week. So this is a very busy time because I got tons of big meetings, got tons of everything. But you just got to fit it in.
Do you take time off of school?
No, it's funny because you're allowed 19 absences, I think. Yeah, 19, I think, is what you're allowed. And right now I think I'm at 14 total, but in one class I have 17. So I'm right on the border. Got to make sure I don't take absences for the rest of the year. I doubt I will. I only have 5 days left. But the only time I'll really take an absence is if I'm sick, number one, or, for example, if I have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity I couldn't give up. So, for example, when Connor Blakely was in New York City, we went to meetings, we went to VaynerMedia with Gary Vaynerchuk, all these different places. I took the day off of school to go and shadow Connor for a day because it was worth it. Or taking a day off to go to meetings. But I'm not just doing it just because. It's gotten to the point where I've had to make sure I don't take off because I can't hit the amount of days.
Yeah, no, listen, you've got to make sure you focus on your school. But as you said, if it's an important life changer, then you've got to weigh up the balance. Thanks for that. We've got a couple of questions just coming in. So Alexander Breed runs an advertising site on Facebook. He's saying, look, I'm 40 and stressed out constantly. Welcome to my world. You've got to let that flow, that stress, trying to juggle business and life. And I can't imagine, how you would cope with the school and business. So, I mean, what would you say stressed out? Is stress good in business? How do we deal with that?
So this is an interesting point for me just because, like we said earlier, I had pretty bad anxiety, panic attacks, all of that stuff growing up, and I still do. So it's been very tough for me when I've changed. That's usually the thing that triggers me sometimes. So when I'm starting something new, when I'm making a transition in my life, that's when I tend to get anxiety. So I would say in business, it sort of helped me get over it in the fact that things are always changing, so you can't get set on one thing. I would say if you're struggling with that, I think coping mechanisms for me as a kid helped me where I am today because now I can cope with stuff much easier just because of that. But my advice would be don't let anything take you down. Just sort of go with the flow. That's something that sounds like cliche, I guess you could say. But if you really just let it happen, it's going to work out. Once again, I think prioritizing is a big thing. Like, what is important? What do I actually need to worry about? Not what's bothering me, but is stupid. Sort of what do I need to actually be worrying about? Do I still have food on the table? Do I still have all of these things? Like, I would not focus on the irrelevant things and let them take you down.
No, totally. That's great advice. Hopefully that's a good answer for Alexander Breed. And another question there from Robert J. Moore, who is actually making a point saying anything that is easy to accomplish, is not worth doing. No. Anything hard to complete. Now that's a great, that's saying when the going gets tough, the tough get going, right? And just going back briefly, Jesse, where you said, we spoke earlier, you said it wasn't always easy for you. You said to me you had attention disorder and some other challenges. You said you don't mind talking about those. Do you want to tell me about the emotional challenges, which particular ones you struggled with and suffered from?
Yeah. So like I said, I dealt with anxiety ever since I was like 9 years old. So that's had a big impact on my life. But then on the other side, with ADD, I think I'd always sort of been like, I would ask repetitive questions, like not repetitive, but I would ask questions over and over again. People would be like, stop asking questions, because I'd literally ask like 50 in a row. And some people loved it because they're like, I love how interested you are, all of that. But some people were like, why are you asking so many questions? Shut up, basically. But the ADD, I would say, was diagnosed maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But the biggest thing in terms of that, the struggle with it was once I diagnosed, I was like, why me? That was the first thing I thought, like, why me? They call it a disorder. What's wrong with me? But then with my family support and then eventually seeing other doctors, I came to the realization, I think it was a doctor that may have said it, they're like, it's not a disorder, it's a superpower or something like that. And that sort of stuck with me, as weird as that sounds, using it to your advantage rather than looking at it as something that holds you back. Like, I don't think I would be where I am today if I didn't have ADD. Let's just put it that way.
So this is that's a really open and brave, discussion and open nature. And actually what you're saying is you've turned a negative into a positive. Now, we can all learn from that, including me, including people watching at home. If you're watching at home, this is a guy, again, that's 16 years of age. Please do share the video as best you can. Jesse's going to give everybody a templated email that he sent out to all the CEOs of companies and how he got in contact with them to interview them. And if you go to Jesse's webpage, which is 20's 20under20s.com, and go to episodes, you'll be able to see all the people that Jesse's interviewed. Now, one testament to the fact that Jesse's interviews will blow you away, because when he's talking to these gifted young entrepreneurs, many of them multi-millionaires now, I'm telling you, they know their stuff. Now, let's get back to Jesse, and thank you for Jesse for sharing that. This is what I want to know is this, that, when you did your first interview, and I think your first interview was with Conor Blakely, wasn't it, right?
Yeah.
And I said to you, how did you feel when you're doing your first interview? All these challenges, you're writing to Conor Blakely. I remember my first high-profile interview when I had my magazine, Raw Business, which I failed, by the way, because my cash flow was messed up. It was a printed magazine. I didn't quite get it right. But my first one was Rachel Elnor on Dragon's Den. Lovely lady. And then after that, many others followed. Your first one, how did you feel actually having achieved an interview than actually doing it? What was going through your mind? How did you feel?
So anyone who's there, if you listen to my first episode, you will hear me trembling in the nerves. I was honestly scared a lot. I'm going to grab these right now. I've kept these as a realization. The first interview, I had notes and questions all prepped out. I keep them next to me as a reminder, but these are all questions I wanted to ask. Ever since that interview, I've never used questions.
That's the actual question.
Yeah, ever since I've never used questions. But I needed these because I was scared and I was nervous. I didn't know what to do. You could hear my voice shaking. So I always keep these as a reminder. This is where I started with all these papers. Look at all this. I was like, for one interview. So I felt very nervous, very scared. But now I've gotten to the point where I can go off the cuff.
Was your nerves, once you started the interview, it just dies down? For me, you may get a little bit. There's a very big difference between adrenaline, fear, and adrenaline, right? And I think a lot of people confuse fear with the adrenaline that's running through your body. It's like when the green light goes, you're just off and you're doing it, aren't you? And what did Connor say about your interview after? What did he say to you?
He said I did good. I don't know if he was just trying to make me feel better or if he actually thought it, but I'll take him for his word.
Listen, I think you've got a fantastic interviewing ability and you come across really professional and, as I say, age beyond your years. So thanks for that. If you've got any questions, audience, please put them up on the screen. Teresa, hi Teresa, good evening. Fantastic. Really pleased to have you all watching this evening. We're going to be with, so Alexander's saying that he's got the advertising business in spare time. He owns a one-stop appliances, selling domestic appliances, and he also owns fast appliance repairs. Right, I got it. So he's doing a lot of stuff. Okay, Alexander, we're going to come back to that a little bit later. But keep the questions.
Yeah, come at us with some questions. I want to help as many people as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. But let me just jump on to another question we've got now. Let me just ask you. I mean, there's lots of hopefully youngsters watching and and even adults watching. You know, this is an important one. You know, how can the older generation connect more effectively with today's tech-savvy youth? How do we do that? Because I know adults would say, oh, my kids are disconnected. They're in their room all the time. And even my 11 and 12-year-old girls, they're on all the Instagrams and the Facebooks. And they're on. You guys are so technically gifted. You're almost born with computer chips planted in your butt cheeks, right? How do we connect as an older generation? How do we connect with you guys?
So would you say, are you asking on an individual's perspective as like a parent, or are you talking about brands?
Both, actually. And as a parent, how can we connect better with our kids with regards to technology and understanding what you're going through in today's world? And as a business owner, reaching out to a younger aspiring entrepreneur that's got a tech-savvy ability. For example, Mike Allison was watching, and he owns a technology company. He owns a telecoms company, fairly tech. If he can get some youngsters coming into his business that are really tech-savvy, it can only help add to the business. As a parent, we are disconnected from our children because the religion is giving them this whole new world. So we need to deal with both of those, right?
Yeah. So what I would say for individuals is a lot of time people look at our generation as checked out, as they like to say. Like, we're not in – they always say sign into life or whatever. Like, we're using these all day. This is our life pretty much. But what I like to say is the unique part about Gen Z is that we grew up with those phones. For example, millennials adapted to those. As they grew up, phones became accessible. For us, we were born with those. So when we were born, now you see babies at restaurants and they're playing on iPads and they're 2 years old. As Connor Blakely likes to say, we're the first generation that can FaceTime your friends, text your mom, and order pizza all at the same time. So you can do all of that at the same time. So for us, phones are just another way of communication. So for parents that are concerned, I mean, I'd look at it the same way they look at any other sort of communication. I think if you're in a setting where you're talking one-on-one, obviously you shouldn't be using a phone because you're already communicating with someone right there. But for us, I think that's one way of communication. And in terms of face-to-face, I think now, since we grew up with phones and technology, face-to-face meetings are sort of seen as like a novelty and unique. And people want to do them because they never get to do them normally. The norm is texting, emailing, that kind of stuff. So I think parents can connect by just getting to know their kids, knowing that they'll use the social media and stuff, and trying to just not act like a teenager, but try and connect with them by that, and don't like yell at them for using their phones because that's the way they've learned to communicate. And then in terms of brands, I would say you need to use video content. That's the number one thing I like to say, because teenagers have already seen enough of messages, pictures, that kind of stuff. And I just said this last week, and I think it applies. Like, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, then a video's worth 1,000,000 words. Because I think if you can catch somebody's attention in 3 seconds by a video, you'll get them to stick way more likely than if you just have text over a picture.
No, fantastic. We've got a question here from Noah Brewer. So Noah Brewer, hi and welcome. Thank you very much indeed for posting your question. So Noah's asked, hey Jesse, I am your business?
Yeah. So basically, the main thing right now I've been doing is since December is been running the podcast, growing the podcast. Like I said, I'd done previous things, for example, like the shoes, doing editing things, all of these different things. But for the last 6 months, I've been pretty locked down on the podcast. The main reason I've been doing that is, number one, it's been able to get me to gain a following and get people that will trust me. I've been able to build an awesome network that I'll be able to partner with down the line. So yeah, right now, this is the main thing I've been working on.
No, fantastic. Hopefully that answers your question. Listen, Mike Allison just said, I spent my youth in and out of telephone boxes. So, I mean, this is Mike. Mike's 52, right? Mike's at 52. Mike's a really lovely guy. Actually, Mike, you don't know this. I think you may do now, but Simon Clark was my brother-in-law, and I think Simon's now fiance. He's friends with your wife. And I see my brother-in-law in your video the other day, Mike, which is what made me laugh in your front room of the house. I think I'd come to when you were doing the windows, right? So listen, we've got another question. It's a question for me actually there from Alexander Breed. Badly, can I ask you a question? Do you know, with my life's quite a long story. Actually, I've got a book coming out quite shortly. It's called Get Up, Stand Up, Do It. I've failed more times than I've succeeded. I've been bust and broke 4 times in my life. I've had some really fantastic businesses. I've worked with Walt Disney, Coca-Cola. I've interviewed some really fabulous people. I've imported and exported all over the world. I should be by rights a multi-millionaire now, right? But actually, every time I've fallen over, I've failed in business. There's been a moment of huge pain, of crushing pain on my chest, which we all feel, because when we've got a business and we lose a business, it's almost like your own baby. It's like your own child. The part of your business dies with you. But what you do is you have to learn from the mistakes. You have to learn from what you did wrong. Learn from what you didn't get right. That's where the biggest teachings in business are. For me, it isn't about the successes, because you can just repeat those quite easily. It's about the challenges you face in business, the adversity that you have to deal with and overcome, that ultimately is going to shape you as the person you're going to become, the entrepreneur that you want to be, the person you want to be. I spent 46 years chasing my life to become the person who I'm just becoming now. So it's taken me a long time, but you just grab. Every time I do something that I don't love doing, it doesn't work out. Every time I do the thing that I love, like I'm doing now, it works out. Do the thing you love. Hopefully that helps. Let's take another question if we've got one there. We've got Jane Lennon said that so many creative people, have ADD, which is attention deficit disorder. And I think, yeah, it's true. I mean, Richard Branson, right, is dyslexic. And a quick story about Richard Branson and on failed businesses. And just going back to Alexander very quickly, Virgin Cola failed in the UK because Virgin Cola took over the UK and they smashed it up. They had tanks going down New York. You may remember the tank with Richard Branson and Virgin Cola. And what Coca-Cola did is they got a 747 Jumbo from their headquarters in America. They filled it with Coca-Cola. They filled it with a merchandise and marketing team. That Jumbo landed in the UK and they gave away Coca-Cola to every single retailer, pretty much wiped Virgin Cola off the shelves overnight. Richard Branson realised that he should always do the things that matter, that he can make an impact on, that they can make a very big difference on. That's the same with anyone in business. Jesse, okay, so let's come back to you now, and let me ask another question, but keep the questions coming. Please do, while we've got Jesse. Share the video, and let's keep getting the message out there. I want to talk a little bit about New York City, right, because for the kids over here and for the youngsters over here, so many of them, they don't actually have the confidence to step outside of their town. And I met so many kids that the furthest place they've been is perhaps the town or the town next to them. Now, you and I are very similar, because at 16 years of age, I was catching the train into London. I wanted to be a blue button on the London stock market, on the stock market floor. I took the day off school, I got the train to go up to the stock market, to the viewing gallery, and I looked down at the viewing gallery, and I wanted to be a blue button, right? And very similar to you, I got the stockbrokers' addresses, and I wrote 150 handwritten handwritten letters. We didn't even have email. Said no. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I kept going. Eventually, I did get offered 2 jobs as a blue button. I ended up working for James Cable at HSBC in London as the youngest blue button on their trading floor. Never, ever, ever give in. Now, Jesse, you live 45 minutes outside of New York City. New York City, what a fabulous. The city that never sleeps. And for kids that are scared to venture out on their own, you're 16. Tell me about New York City. What do you do when you go there?
Yeah, so I lived in New York City until I was 3 or 4, but I don't really remember that. But I got tons of family friends and friends that live in New York, so I'd go in with my family all the time to visit. But recently, there's been tons of meetings that I've had to go to in New York, meeting with amazing people. VaynerMedia is based in New York, so when I met with AJ Vaynerchuk, when I'm going to be meeting with Gary Vaynerchuk in a couple of weeks, also just going in for other meetings. New York City's pretty much the hot spot where you have to be. So what I've come to do now is like I said, I had anxiety anyway. So just going to the city was sort of like, whoa, at first. But now I pretty much, whenever I'll take a train into New York, I'll take an Uber, whatever it is. So yeah, I go in pretty consistently, whether I take a train, an Uber, whatever it is, but it's definitely helped me to be more independent for sure.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. And obviously, you know, I've been in New York City, pretty much been in New York City, you know, absolutely fantastic. And Teresa's just put across a really, really great question, which we had lined up a little bit later on, but we're going to share that now. And from Teresa, lovely lady, I know, great family, business family, very, very close-knit family, actually in the UK, these guys, lovely family. Her son's Daniel. Very supportive of what I'm doing, and it's at your feet. You still there, Jesse?
Yep, I'm right here. So,
yeah, okay.
I would see myself in the next 10 years, right? That was the question?
Yes.
So, it's hard because sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. But I would say I want to continue the drive I have today, keep building my network consistently, trying to give value. But I see myself as being an entrepreneur, having my own business for sure, and hopefully partnering with people that I enjoy, spending time with my family, and keep on building where I'm at today.
Fantastic. And just very quickly, what has been your biggest challenge so far to get to where you've got right now?
Yeah, so in terms of personally, I would say anxiety, ADD, all those things, they had a huge impact on my life. In terms of business, I would say probably right after I'd launched. It was probably like 3 to 4 weeks after the podcast had gone live, and it got a pretty big uptick in views right at the beginning just because it was the beginning, and I was promoting it nonstop. And then it sort of dropped off to like 2 downloads a day, 3 downloads a day, 1 download a day, and I was like, what am I going to do? So I didn't know where I had to counter to. I was like, now nobody's watching anymore. What am I going to do? And it sort of upset me. I was like, I put in all this work and nobody's listening. So that was a huge challenge. But eventually I just kept on promoting stuff, kept on getting awesome guests, and eventually got big-time guests who promoted it, got mentioned in the Huffington Post, which definitely helped. And all of those things eventually bumped it back up to where it is today.
No, fantastic. I mean, Alexander Breed's asking another question there. He's asking, actually, Jesse doesn't go to school in New York City. Jesse lives in Upper Saddle River in New Jersey, which is about 45 minutes outside of New York City, but he goes into New York City. So the question, basically, let's take New York City out of it because you go to school in New Jersey, but he's asking, you know, he thinks that the schools in the UK are not recognising entrepreneurs enough. And you said earlier that you went to an entrepreneur class. Where is that class?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I don't think it's very common. I think our school just added it recently, and I think there's only one period of it, like one class of it. So I think it's just growing. I think people are finally realizing that it's something that people should learn from a young age, like that they can go out and do it on their own. But I think there should still be more freedom. Like, it's still a very focused curriculum, which I don't like because I don't think entrepreneurship is a focused curriculum. Like, you do this and this will happen. I think there should be more freedom, but I think hopefully more companies, more schools and countries and states will start to realize this and add it to their curriculum.
No, fantastic. And just wanted to ask you a little about in the UK. I think the UK is very different from the US. You know, when I was younger, my parents actually had a house in Florida in a support to everybody over there. And salesmanship, for example, they love if you do really well, they respect it and they say congratulations. You know, the UK, sadly, sometimes if the more successful you become, or if you're very good at something, you're going to get a really, there can be a set of people that can bring you down and want to sort of harm your success. So I guess what I wanted to ask you next is so what do you think about the people that perhaps try to bring you down when you're going through your experiencing your success?
Yeah, I think that's a huge impact on it. Any person who's trying to be an entrepreneur, trying to be successful, trying to be a leader, there's always going to be people who hate. There's always going to be haters. There's always going to be people who go against you and think that you're doing everything wrong. And why are you trying to do this? It's a terrible idea. For example, like when I was cold emailing all these people, they're like, why are you cold emailing Mark Cuban? He doesn't give a crap. And then I was like, look who just emailed me back. And it's just all of those things. Like whenever those people try and bring you down, I think that sort of just gives you more fuel. You can't look at it personally because the only reason they're doing that is either because they're jealous or they have nothing better to do with their time. So you need to look at it as fuel to keep doing what you're doing. And it sort of shows that you're doing something right because people wouldn't be hating on you if you were doing something bad. Like if you're actually doing something good that is becoming big, you're going to get people who feel jealous and hate on it.
Yeah, totally. No, that's absolutely fantastic. And of course, you know, from your point of view, tonight you're going to be going on to doing another live show. Now that's going to be at 2 to 3 a.m. this morning. That's when I first listened to you on a live, although we started chatting a few weeks ago, but obviously with Swish. So what's going to happen tonight? What you got going on tonight?
Yeah, so from 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern time. So I think that's 2 to 3 London time. It's going to be my second episode on Teens of America Radio. I think we had Sean Mulroney in here before, but he is the founder of Teens of America. It's basically a show and an organization that is for trying to promote stuff for teens. It's for some teens that are either troubled or they took the wrong pathway or they want to try and do something amazing. So there's different pathways of it. It's to help prevent bad decisions in teens, help promote good decisions in teens. So they have a radio show. I think they have something like 100,000 listeners on each show. But this is going to be my second episode where I'm live with Sean as his co-host, and it's called the Access Your Success Show. And we're going to be interviewing Dylan Gambardella, who is the co-founder of the Next Gen Summit, which is a group that really changed my life. It's a Facebook group with like 3,000 members, I think, all of successful entrepreneurs in their 20s or below that want to give. I was in that Facebook group that really had a big impact on me. Tons of people that wanted to help, and they just had their conference this past weekend in New York, which was incredible. So we're going to be having him on the show and talking with him.
Fantastic. And obviously for people listening in the UK, and obviously thank you very much indeed for the comments we've received this evening. Is there any more comments for Jesse, you know, before we crack off and close off, then just, you know, please do fire away. Mike Allison, as you said, a very wise head on the young shoulders.
Thank you, Mike. I
was pleased to hear Jesse for the first and at 59 been in business and been around the block. He knows about business. He knows about people. Is someone you could well worth connect up with on Facebook. A great guy to talk to and to understand his business challenges, which you can build on your own. And I'm sure from a techno point of view, you can pass that back to Mike as well. So you're gonna finish school. You're gonna go to college. You're gonna go on to what we call university. You're gonna go on to get a degree. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's interesting because out of the people I've interviewed and become friends with, it's like a huge debate, like pro college, against college. For example, like Connor Blakely dropped out of high school senior year to go focus on it because he had that once in a lifetime opportunity. The plan right now for me is to go to college or university, if that's what they call it in the UK. But I think the way to look at college is that it's a great way to mature as a person and a great way to build up and live on your own and all of those things. And I think there's a couple reasons why I would not go or drop out, but only a few key things. Number one, if I had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity I couldn't miss. So let's say I had an opportunity to grow if I had a business that was already successful and either I didn't go to college and could keep growing it or the business would fail if I went to college. That's one way because you can always go back to college, but you can't always go back on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And the other one is if you have that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, if you have the opportunity to have a multi-million-dollar company that you want to they've investors in, partners, and it's becoming huge, I think it may be the right decision to take like a leave of absence. But right now, where I'm at, definitely going to college, and it's a great place to network as well, I think.
No, absolutely brilliant. That's a great answer. Let's talk a little bit about business funding, startup funding, because a lot of times when people are starting business, there's the fear of startup funding. And the thing is, you can get in a position where you can say to yourself, and I've done this, I've done it so many times, and I've fallen over, I've lost businesses. I can remember, having a business at 93 to 98, it went multi-million. I traded internationally, and then the Far East crashed in 1987, 1988, and I lost £500,000 back then overnight. So I kind of went to bed with a fairly decent company, working with fantastic people. And then the next morning, the Far East had crashed. It had dropped by a third in value. My supporters and stock importers pulled out overnight. My business was crushed. I was totally crushed. I woke up bust, broken skin, with a 20,000 square foot warehouse with all the stock taken out from my supply. I was in a bad state. I can remember dropping to the floor and I cried and like, oh my God, that's why me. And then broke up and start. But let me ask you a question. For people, for the youngsters, even for the adults in the UK, startup business funding. Do you think money gets in the way? And what did you do? How did you fund your startup? What did you do, Jesse?
Yeah, so in terms of me, I used some of the money I had saved from when I did my shoe stuff. It wasn't that much to start this up. I already had a laptop, just really needed this thing, my mic, and I don't know, pretty much that and headphones and some other basic stuff. But in terms of funding, I would say there's a couple ways to go about it. A lot of people think VC is the only way to go about it, venture capital. And I've come to the realization that at Next Gen Summit, actually, one of the speakers said, the second you take some of these money for venture capital, you shouldn't feel happiness, you should feel terror. And you should feel that because now you have that responsibility to go pay that person back. And you have to do it quickly. So I would say there's multiple resources now where you don't need to go out and get money and give away equity in your company. You can use Kickstarter. You can use fundthis.com. Felix Hartman, a guy who I've had on the show, he just launched. It's called Fund This. But it's an incredible platform. They're doing great stuff. But Kickstarter, Fund This, getting crowdfunding, whether it's getting through a website like that, getting friends. I think you don't even need the money sometimes. If you can, unless you need it, I don't think you should try and get money. Only if it's a necessity. If you're just trying to do it because, I want it, not the right reason. But if you need to do it to either start or grow your business, then I think that may be the right decision to go for funding.
Absolutely fantastic. I appreciate that. And we've still got a decent number of viewers listening to the show. So we'll just keep going for another 10 minutes. We might as well use the hour, Jesse, if that's good for you.
Good.
Tell me a little bit about some of the decision process that goes through your mind. So as an entrepreneur, we probably have 10,000 ideas a day, and then we act upon the ones that we feel we should move forward. You talked about it earlier, did what's most important. What advice can you give to the young aspiring entrepreneurs and our grown-up entrepreneurs about the decisions the emotions and the thoughts that's coming through our mind and the decisions we need to take and not procrastinate? How do you get out of that procrastination stage and take action? What's your advice?
This is something that AJ Vaynerchuk told me. Gary Vaynerchuk's younger brother, AJ was the COO of VaynerMedia, and he's now the CEO of Vayner Sports, their sports agency. But I was talking to AJ, and he said, here's what me and Gary do. He said, if we have an idea, and these are two of some of the most successful people on the planet, and their advice is incredible here. He goes, if we have an idea, we have 10,000 ideas a day. We'll get all excited, and obviously you get all hyped up about it on the spot. But he's like, we'll wait a week, and then if we don't have that same raging passion for it, we won't do it. But if we do, because if you don't have that same sort of drive to do it a week from then, why would you have that same drive to do it 2 years from then? So I would say it all depends on if you have that drive and if you really want to pursue it a week down the line, a month down the line. If you're really that inspired by it and think you could go to market with it, then do it. But if you don't think that, if you're not that excited about it, a week later, you're not going to be that excited about it 10 years later.
No, fantastic. And Mike just come back on that last question saying we have our own phrase, crowd sharing. And Christian Dowse has just said, awesome, bro. Do you know Christian Dowse? Is that one of your guys?
No, I don't know Christian.
Knows? Okay, so Christian, obviously, thank you for your comment there. Thank you very much indeed for sharing and for joining the live. Christian, if you've got a question you want to ask Jesse before we cut off for the evening, then please do put it up on the screen. And we're far away. Mike, if there's any other questions you want to ask.
Yeah, Jane, we got like 50 people in here. Drop any questions. Let's do it.
If anybody else wants to ask a question of Jesse, please do fire away.
Personal questions, business questions.
Just keep asking. Well, we got him for about another. Absolutely. And Jesse, let me ask you a question for myself actually while I've got you online. Watching you reminded me of a very, very young me. Determined, confident, you're coming across fairly well, the world at his feet, and you've got everything to play for. Do you think entrepreneurs in the current world and climate, being the fact that you've got such tech-savvy opportunities, is it more beneficial living in a tech world than you think that perhaps your parents and your grandparents? What do you think?
So the question,
a different kind of entrepreneur, right?
Yeah. So was the question saying how we have it at our fingertips? Was that what you were saying?
Yeah. Do you think it's more? Would you prefer to live the life now in this techno world, or in your parents' or your grandparents' time?
I mean, we still evolve. I hate when people say that the people our age don't have the same struggles that people did earlier, because we 100% do. Even though we have social media in this, you still have all of these different struggles, whether that's bullying in terms of like cyberbullying, whether that's just having trouble building yourself up and all of these different things. So I wouldn't say that it was easier to grow up now, but I think in terms of starting a business, it's much easier to get your idea off the ground instead of having to take a long time. All you need pretty much is a computer and an internet connection, and you can really go out and do whatever you want. So I would 100% rather live now. Absolutely.
No, fantastic. And Jesse, just want to share a little bit about your family. Tell us about your family, Jesse. Explain to me what your family life is like, brothers, sisters.
Yeah. So I have, like I said, my parents have been a huge influence on me. They're both incredible people. My dad is an entrepreneur. He's run his business for, I think, near 25 years. And
what does he do, your dad?
He runs, I always do a terrible job explaining this, but I'll try. The company's called Strategic Education Technologies, but it helps families affordably send their kids to college. So they have like advisors around the country that help families plan out the money for like financial aid for college, like annuity and life insurance for retirement, all of that kind of stuff is like my best idea of it. But he is an incredible entrepreneur, and he's been a huge impact on my life as a mentor as well in terms of business also. And then my siblings, I'm the oldest of 3 siblings, so I'm 16. I have a 13-year-old brother who's in 7th grade. And then I have a 10-year-old sister. She just turned 10 yesterday. So she is in 4th grade. But they are awesome. They're athletic. They're super nice. I mean, they've sort of asked me all these different questions about what I'm doing, but I'd love to help as much as I can with them. But I have a great family. Got 2 French bulldogs. So yeah, the dogs are important. You can't forget them.
Fantastic. Question of the interview. I just wanted to say to you, there we go. Gary V said he will buy the Jets one day. Yeah, Gary Vaynerchuk.
He did say that. That is still their goal.
Is that still their goal, right?
I think it is. I'm going to ask Gary when I see him on July 5th, 3 weeks from today. Yeah.
Fantastic. I watched the video of him. He was outside doing a video. I don't know if you've seen this one. He was standing by the dumpster in a back alley.
Great. If you have not seen that video, please go check it out.
You got to look at that. Gary Vaynerchuk is one heck of an awesome, inspired guy. And he did this video where he stands outside this dumper truck and he's casual in his sort of tracksuit. Yeah, and if you haven't seen it, look it up and watch it. We've got another question, Jesse, in from Alexander Breed on the screen. Jesse, what, in your opinion, would be the best way to advertise a business? Facebook, he said, I find the cost a lot expensive and seems to go up and down in price. Let me just say up and down in price. Before you know it, and your advertising budget is lose for little return. Sorry, listen, Alexander,
the questions.
Go for it, Jesse. What do you say? I mean, this comes down to targeted marketing, understanding target marketing, right?
Yeah, I think with Facebook ads, you should be able to get a good return on what you put in if you do it the right way. Once again, it depends on your business model and what your business is. But I think a great way to target it is, number one, Facebook lets you literally target as specific as you want to go. You can go down to the exact people you want to target. And like I said before, I think if you can turn it into an interactive thing where people interact with it, whether that's video, whether that's something else, I think that will catch people's attention. And I think you need to do something sort of extreme that will get people to say yes right away. I don't think if you do an ad like everyone else, you're not going to get a great response. But if you do something that will make somebody jump at it right now on Facebook, I think you can get a great return.
No, fantastic. And Mike's saying that, Mike, we launch on the 4th of July in the UK. Mike, what's that in relation to, Mike? What's launching on the 4th of July?
Yeah, I want to
just come back to you. What's launching on the 4th of July, Mike? I know you've got a new business, right, Mike? I've seen the Mini. It's called Sabre or called Telecom or Telecom Call. What's the name of the company, Mike? Just share that, because I've seen the Mini on your Facebook page, but I can't remember the name. I know it's cashback on calls or something like that. But yeah, tell us more about that before we jump off.
Yeah.
So Jesse,
I forgot to add, if anyone is in Toronto or will be in Toronto at the end of February of next year, I know it's going to be going live on in 3 days. It will be going public, but I thought I'd let you guys know because I think it's going to be super cool. But super excited. I got the opportunity. I'm going to be speaking at an event or being on a panel or something. It's called Haste and Hustle in Toronto. Gary Vaynerchuk will be keynoting with Connor Blakely, Swish Goswami, myself. All these amazing people will be speaking, and it's going to be an awesome event. So if you want to go see Gary, check it out for sure. But yeah.
Yeah, so Robert J. Moore, if you're listening in Toronto, listen, hook up with Jesse, up and communicate. I know that when I spoke online the other night with Swish, Swish had heard of you. Swish is Canadian, but hook up with Jesse, and I'm sure there's a lot you can help with your youth and your challenges to help some of the youth. Support Telecom, cashback on calls is kind of his strap line. And Mike, runs a technology business. Thanks for that, Mike. A question, and I want you to really look into the camera lens when you say this. You know, when I see kids across the UK and they're not motivated to get up off their butt to do something, they've got this sense of self-entitlement where they think it should be given to them. It never got given to me. I had to go out and clean cars and wash this and do this and bob a job, whatever I needed to do to make my money. You sold trainers at school, right, and flipped trainers and made money from trainers before you started your business. What would you say to these kids that feel they've got no opportunity, they can't get any money, they're just sitting home, they're lazy and sponging off their parents? What do you say to them, Jesse, to motivate them to say to them, yes, you can do it? What would you say, Jesse?
If you think that there's not an opportunity to go make money, you're not trying hard enough. If you don't think you have an opportunity in the market, once again, you're not trying hard enough and you're not doing your research. You need to go out, find something that interests you and pursue the hell out of it. Find everyone you can meet in that industry that you want to be like. So for me, I was interested in this, so I reached out to Gary Vaynerchuk, Mark Cuban, all of the people that inspired me. You reach out to everyone who inspires you and you will get a response, I promise. Reach out to me. I will help you with your cold email. But if you are interested in something, let's say you're interested in sports, but you think, oh, I can't do it. Reach out to everyone you are interested in and pursue that market, and I guarantee you will find a way to either make money or grow your network through that. So there's no excuse for not going out and starting something if you're interested in it.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I mean, some people can't even get to the point where they can write an email, or they don't know how, which is why we're trying to utilize, the Kids Startup program to give them the basic belief that they can. I mean, they've got all the tools there, guys. If my broadband keeps crashing because it's quite slow where I am on the outskirts, and I do apologize about that. Mike said he saw Gary in London recently. And Alexander, yeah, my broadband can be pretty poor. It can keep crashing, so I do apologise. We're going to take a last question now from Jesse. We've been going an hour or so, just over. So listen, if there's another question before we say to Jesse, good evening, please do put it across. Don't forget, share this video with your friends. Turn on the live notifications. Jump onto Jesse's Facebook page as well, Jesse K. Connect with Jesse. Look at the live notifications on Jesse's side, and I guarantee you, it's worth staying up late at night, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning to watch some of his lives.
And if you guys want to do something earlier, I'll do it for you.
Yeah, and listen, if we can connect now. Jesse's connected. Connect with Jesse. Maybe a UK tech side. So if we've got anyone listening from a tech point of view in the UK, Jesse, Cambridge, United Kingdom is a massive, tech area in the UK. There's so much investment, VC investment in Cambridge, where Cambridge University is. There's so many businesses up there, and there's lots of commercial premises being built now. Cambridge is quite a tight area, very difficult for space, but there's so many really tech-based businesses centred in and around sort of Cambridge city centre. So listen, if you're listening, you want to hook up with Jesse, maybe Jesse can do an interview. I know that Doug Richard, who I interviewed myself a few years ago, runs a program up there in Cambridge University. Maybe Doug Richard, if Doug Richard, somebody can reach out to him, then of course there may be a great one. And Doug's actually, I think Doug's Canadian. I'm sure Doug Richard's Canadian as well. So Jesse, let's just have a quick look. That's Josine. Josine just come online and she said, hi guys, I nearly missed you. At the back end of the show now, Josine. Josine's a lovely lady. Met her at the Radio Works, Make the News London, with Marina Nani and Darry Nani, which is again Jesse. I'm liking well, then I think you can hugely benefit. So Jesse, is there any thanks you'd like to give to anyone in your life for where you are now, apart from yourself?
Oh yeah, so many. I'd go on for hours if I hit on all of them. But I would say the key people that I always go back to are, number one, my family. Like I said before, they've been incredibly supportive. And hands down, I wouldn't be where I am without them. Also, all of my friends have been incredibly supportive. They've helped me out with everything. They've helped me film stuff. They've supported me. No matter how annoying they can get, they've been very helpful. So shout out to a bunch of my buddies. My friend Matt Gross and Drew Perez were here last week helping me out with shooting some stuff. And then also Connor Blakely, huge shout out to him. He's been the most influential person in the last 6 months in my life, helping me connect with everyone. And Next Gen Summit, Dylan Gambardella and Justin Lathazan, the creators of the Next Gen Summit. You guys should definitely check it out. It's ngsummit.com. Definitely an amazing group for any young entrepreneurs. It's had an incredible impact on my life. But yeah, I'd say some of those people, there's countless other people that I'd love to thank. But those are the ones right off the top of my head. For anyone listening, first off, thank you for listening. Second off, if you guys have any questions, comments, whatever, or if you just wanted to reach out, feel free to send me a Facebook message. I check all my Facebook messages. You can email me, jessekay811@gmail.com. I read all of my emails, so just send me a message.
Fantastic. And just to say to the camera, to give you an understanding of some of the people that Jesse's interviewed, some of these guys are multi-millionaires in their 20s and under their 20s. Connor Blakely, for example, Jesse interviewed Connor Blakely, who says it was his first interview. Jesse was named the #1 high school entrepreneur to watch in 2016 by Startup Grind, and he's deemed a business phenomenon and tycoon by Inc. magazine. Another one, episode 2, Ben Stern. Jesse interviewed Ben Stern, who's the founder of Nobo, the world's first single-use eco-friendly shampoo product. Ben has been featured on Shark Tank and accepted a $100K investment from Mark Cuban. He's also interviewed Mike Klum. Mike Klum, the founder of Klum Creative, a video production creative based in Cleveland, Ohio. Jared Kleinart, Sherez Parab, Manu Swish Goswami, Felix Hartman, Brandon Steiner, Brandon Steiner is the chairman of Steiner Sports and Marketing Memorabilia and the author of the Business Playbook. And you've got to have balls. Fantastic. You've got to have balls. So, Jesse, let's end the interview on you've got to have balls. What do you think about that?
I love Brandon. Met him a couple of months ago. He's an incredible guy, super successful businessman, but also an incredible person. And yes, you got to have balls. It's all about going out, taking that first step and facing your fears and doing it. Definitely check out his book, but Brandon's an incredible guy. And yeah, you got to have balls.
You got to have balls. Okay, so listen, we're going to end the video. We still got a fairly decent audience, watching. And we're really, really, really pleased to have you all listening tonight. So listen, from my point of view, thank you all for taking the time out of your busy evening, spending an hour with us. But most importantly, the star of the show is Mr. Jesse Kay, founder of 20 Under 20's, an awesome, inspired 16, not 17-year-old young man who has got balls bigger than King Kong. He's got aspirations, courage, determination, faith, and ability. And above all, he has got an absolutely intuitive ability to understand business, economics, what's going on in the world in terms of tech, an inspiration in your credit to the USA and to the world, Jesse Kay. Thank you from my heart for taking the time to interview you. If I can ever give you any help, any support for anything you need, any time of night, buddy, you just pick up the phone. I think you've got my details on the DM. You've also got my mobile number. It's been a pleasure, Jesse. Let's just sign off and thank the audience for their time, Jesse. And I'm going to end with a few words from Jesse Kay.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy nights to come on. But it's been an awesome experience, and I look forward to being back soon.
Hey, fantastic. We're going to end the broadcast now, and thank you all so much for listening. Jesse, once again, brilliant, awesome, inspired stuff. And I'll catch up with you on the other side, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.